Oh, I didn't share. Shoot. Screen two, share sound, share. Can you see that? You see my screen?
Yes, it's paused. It's kind of frozen.
I didn't start it yet. Here we go.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us for our second spotlight for our Speak IT series. My name is Linda Donaldson. I am the chair of the Information Technology Department. We are half of the host. Our other host is our IT Advisory Board. They do great things for us. They are here to support our department. They're here to support our students. So please, if you need anything, you can also reach out to us here in the Information Technology Department, as well as our IT Advisory Board. We do have Theron Howard, who is our co-host today. He is here as our IT Advisory Board chairperson. So he, along with our other IT Advisory Boards, are on the call and again here to share their knowledge with you. We have a great hour prepared for you today. It is Women's History Month, so we thought that we would bring in a cybersecurity engineer to talk to you all about how to get into the business. And again, not just for women, but we do appreciate the gentleman joining our call today as well. So Howard, we're going to take it away with you.
Okay, well, thank you, Linda, and thank you all for joining this afternoon Speak IT session. As Linda said, this is the second session that we're running. We do have another one coming on April the 30th. We will have our technology recruiting vendor coming in with the company name of Procom to answer any questions that you all might have in regards to the current job market, interviewing, resume types of information. What I want to do this afternoon is to introduce a colleague, a very good colleague of mine, Aneska Mendez. Have worked with her when she was part of my team doing some Salesforce and Encino development work. She was also celebrated within the company by doing a little cybersecurity exercise of what we thought was an exercise. And then the cybersecurity people came and stole her. She now works as a cybersecurity engineer within the cybersecurity PAM engineering team that works out of Seneca One. And she's part of a team of 15 different cybersecurity engineers, some onshore in the US and some offshore outside of the US. So this afternoon, this gives you all, and when I mean you all, students and participants in this afternoon's session, to ask her questions in regards of cybersecurity. How did she get there? Maybe what the day in the life of a cybersecurity engineer is. I think it's exciting, right, Aneska? But maybe not. So this is not going to be a presentation. This gives you all or participants the opportunity to ask her questions. So if you would not mind participants turning on your cameras, being on mute initially. If you have a question, come off of mute and ask Aneska that question. I know she's more than happy to try to answer it. If she cannot, for whatever reason, but I don't see that, we'll take note of that question and we'll get an answer for the team and send those answers out to the team at large. If you do have another question, you are also welcome to put that in the chat session. We are monitoring the chat session for questions, and we'll bring those questions up to Aneska. So I don't want to call out anybody that's participating, but just to let you know, I have a list of all of your names, and I know some of my students in here. So if we don't get a lot of questions, I'll call some people out. If not, this will be a very, very short WebEx session. So, okay, Aneska, if I missed anything, don't know if you wanted to add anything to your introduction, and then we'll see what kind of questions we get. So over to you.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Theron. And stop me if anyone's having any audio issues or trouble hearing me. All right, so as Theron said, I'm Anishka. I'm a cybersecurity engineer over at M&T. And to kick us off, I just want to delve a bit into my background. And as you see me glancing to the side, I just have notes jotted down because I'm a very disorganized person, and this helps me a lot in my day-to-day life. All right, so I'm from Buffalo. My parents are from Jamaica, but went to Sweetham High School, so Amherst native. I initially went to UB. I changed majors quite a few times, and I will say, at one point did experience health issues and had to medically withdraw. And why I want to make a point of saying that is just in case any of you out there are going through any similar experiences, to just please not feel discouraged if you're going through anything like that. But so I switched majors a few times and it landed in the computer science bachelor's program there. And I kind of had the intention of getting a cybersecurity graduate degree afterwards because I knew that was where I really wanted to go. But partway through my time in undergrad, I actually realized SUNY Canton explicitly had a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. I really liked the director there, the person running the program. I thought he was doing a lot of good things, so I ended up transferring there. So that's where I earned my bachelor's degree. While I was there, I joined a research lab. It's called the Advanced Information Security and Privacy Research Lab. It's a mouthful. And I got to work alongside INRIA in France. They also go by the National Institute for Research in Digital Science and Technology. So that was really cool. It's cross-country collaboration. But specifically what the work was is I was building web scrapers that were collecting data from publicly available social media profiles. And then we were using the data to train AI models, all with the intention of using this in a privacy recommender tool that would help, social media users act safely online, which we all know they don't always do. And then additionally, around this time, probably like my last year of undergrad, I decided to apply for grad schools during this time just because I knew that was something I wanted to do. And I figured I should get out of the way sooner rather than later before I left school and decided never to go back again. So I applied for grad schools my last year, got into all of them, got into Carnegie Mellon, RIT, Georgia Tech, and University of Michigan, both Dearborn and Flint. I ended up choosing University of Michigan Dearborn, and I know my lab director thought I was crazy for turning down Carnegie Mellon, but I chose it because I liked that they let me do a software security concentration. And generally, I just like the curriculum of the courses I saw. I feel like it really aligned with my interest. Something you'll notice about me, I'm sure, as I'm talking, is I really like to find that sweet spot between software engineering and cybersecurity, and I guess I'll elaborate about that more in depth in a bit. But from there, my first job out of college after the lab was working as a full stack engineer at this little startup company called Cyberspera, but funded by the National Science Foundation and the Department of Defense. So we're basically building a cybersecurity training tool. It's working with languages like Python, JavaScript, MySQL, MongoDB, and also working with cloud technologies like AWS. We're setting up the CI/CD pipeline in GitHub. It's like using GitHub Actions and whatnot. Then from there, I came to the bank. So I initially started as a contractor. For the bank, I learned Salesforce for them. And I know Salesforce gets a bad rap. I didn't seem particularly interested in learning it at first either, but I learned to love it and understand its importance, especially in today's current technology industry. But learned Salesforce with them, and got to work with a diverse set of technologies. So they not only used Salesforce, but was also using Azure, Java Spring, .NET, SQL. And then I will also say Salesforce also has its own proprietary languages. So it has like its own OOP language and also has its own JavaScript framework I had to learn. While I was there, I was also the cybersecurity SME. and hence what Darren brought up. So I guess from there, I ended up finding and fixing a security misconfiguration, and that got the attention of cyber, which I was in contact with the department a lot, just because of the nature of the work I was doing for the department. But it caught the attention of specifically the chief information security officer. So he came to see me and thank me, like give me an award for finding and fixing it. And then, I was at some point, and they're converted from a contractor to a full-time employee, and I decided I wanted to make the step and formally go to cyber rather than just being the cybersecurity SME for my department. So from there, I went on the WIAM PAM team, and that's a mouthful, but it's workplace and identity access management and privileged access management. So generally, the gist of what I'm doing on the team is we're maintaining the software that's used to store the bank's secrets, think like privileged credentials or application secrets. And then also it involves a lot of other work, some not so fun, like policy and procedure work, but also I get to do secure code reviews and whatnot. Okay. And I see we do have some questions in the chat, so let me take it.
Yes. Okay, and thank you for that introduction. But as I teased my friend Aneska, the cybersecurity police stole her from us. She was one of our aces in the team, but I do congratulate her for the move that she's done within the organization in a very short time. I don't want to read off the question, so I'm going to go to the question. The person that asked that question in the chat and ask them to ask you, Aneska. Ian, I'm going to start out with you with your question. So if you'd like to articulate to her, I think you could do that and add a little bit more spice to that. So starting out with you, Ian, and then I'll go to Christian second. So go ahead, Ian.
All righty. Hi, thanks for being here. It's a lot of, this is great for us. So what level of technical granularity do I need to master before I get a cybersecurity job? Like, do I need to develop technical skills, like in terms of like preventing attacks? Like, do I just need to be familiar with what is possible, or do I need to be like really in-depth trained on the technical aspects? Like, what is the level of granularity?
That is a really good question. And I'm going to start by saying it's going to depend on where specifically within cyber you want to land. But I think generally speaking, for people just getting in the industry, I'm not saying necessarily get these certifications, and we can talk about certs later on, but content-wise, you're going to want to know the material that's covered on the CompTIA A+ certs, CompTIA Network Plus, CompTIA Security Plus is like your bare minimum for entering the industry. And it's also really good to have, the basics of scripting with Python, Bash, SQL. And like even if you're not like developing applications, it's extremely valuable to be able to at least read and understand a script. I find a lot of the time I notice a lot of cybersecurity professionals seem almost afraid of code. So hence why I get thrown all the code in my team. And then also, you mentioned an analyst job as well. So you don't necessarily need to pursue the CompTIA CYSA Plus cert, but a lot of people in the industry do get their starting point as analyst. I personally didn't, because I started as a full stack engineer and then made the transition because I felt like it would give me a good foundational knowledge going into cyber, which it definitely did. But I will find I know plenty of analysts who came from similar backgrounds as me, but they started off with those certs, and I wouldn't say at that point you need to be an expert, but you will learn a lot on the job. You kind of just want to have that foundational general knowledge that's covered in the Security Plus curriculum. Because, as you go to each company, they're going to be working with different technologies. So you're definitely going to have to learn on the job. But let me pause right there. Did I answer your question or help at all?
Yeah, no, you did. You did for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Christian, I'm going to jump over to you for your question. So if you'd like to ask that, please, and whatever else you want to add on there. Christian, you there?
Oh, is that for Christine Winkler?
Christine, I'm sorry.
Yep,
Christine
that's okay.
Winkler?
She's not feeling well, so I'll ask her.
Okay.
She did email me earlier. I'll ask her question. So what certifications or skills do you recommend for someone starting a career for cybersecurity?
That is a good question. And also thank you for Christine for submitting the questions ahead of time. I probably touched on it with the last question, but please let me know if I didn't or if you have any additional questions. But generally speaking, content-wise, you want the information that's covered in the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications. Whether you obtain it from a bachelor's degree like I did, or you get it by getting the certs, like you want to have at least one or the and no, not everyone's the biggest fan of coding, but it will really benefit you if you know scripting basics and languages like Python, Bash, and SQL. Those are kind of standard for the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Something one of my professors in undergrad told me was to learn all those technologies and then to pick at least one compiled language. So like one like JavaScript or C# or C. And I'm not a fan of C, but I will say that's very good to know if you're someone who's into malware.
Okay, cool. Thank you. David, I'm going to jump over to you for your question, buddy. David.
Okay.
Robb.
I was just wondering what like a summary of your daily duties for your job, like what's entailed.
And
Kind of.
that's a great question. So it varies a lot, and I've also kind of, I want to say like a unique engineer, but I do a lot of work outside of my team as well. But on my team, we're primarily focused on maintaining the software that handles the bank secrets, so like onboarding or troubleshooting any issues or setting up integrations so we can have more apps integrate with those solutions. It also entails lots of code review. As part of the work I do outside, I work with, well, my old department, which Theron's a part of, to help better their security posture in general. So even though I'm not there directly, I'm still helping take point to make sure they're doing things like forwarding logs to the CM platform, making sure they have all the right security testing in place in their pipeline, and just generally helping them engage with cyber.
Excellent.
And I help you answer your question with that.
Yeah. I just wanted a summary of kind of what you do, but yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Suleiman, you have a question. So would you say your question? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Suleiman.
All right. My question was, what are the biggest challenges you face in your job?
Actually, I like that question, so thank you for asking that. So I guess something I've noticed a lot in the industry, okay, so as I said before, I like to find that sweet spot between software engineering and cybersecurity. And the reason for that is when I was a computer science undergrad, I noticed a lot of software engineers, computer scientists don't know a lot about cybersecurity. Then on the other hand, I noticed a lot of cybersecurity professionals didn't know a lot about coding or development in general. So basically, also sorry, I got a message on this side. So kind of what I'm pointing out there is that there's somewhat of a gap there, seeing as you were all working in the same industry, so you're kind of wondering why things are so separated and why me specifically going out of my way to acquire these skill sets makes me, I guess, valuable in the industry. It's kind of that. You'll notice there are silos. So I don't know, as a cybersecurity professional, you're going to need to be able to cordially work with developers and IT administrators and business users. And that's not always easy. Sometimes they view, cyber as like the police, so they run and hide, they try to hide things. And on the other hand, sometimes I feel like on the cyber end of things, they don't always necessarily understand the pain points the software engineers are going through. So like something I've done or something I've been pushing for to help address that, for example, is like a developer-centric approach to security, seeing as I guess generally the responsibility if you're securing code, historically speaking, was not on the developer before, but now it is. So I'd say I know that was a very long-winded answer, and I tend to ramble a lot, so please stop me if I ever don't answer any of your questions. But generally that gaps in communication.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Charlie, you posed a couple of questions, so if you could double up on your questions to her. So go ahead, Charlie P.
Absolutely. I'm gonna kind of switch over a little bit to more maybe like an opinionated question of what do you think of AI and automation? How do you think it'll change cybersecurity jobs?
And I also like that question. Those are some things I wanted to hit on with you guys. So AI, obviously it's a very booming topic lately, and it's going to have implications in cybersecurity from both the offensive and defensive perspective. So it kind of fascinates me a bit. But one, I like to think its implications on data privacy. So the US, our data laws in general are not as robust as they are somewhere like Europe. And I know we have exceptions like places in California, but it's making our data all that much more valuable because, it has the ability to be used to train AI models now. So it's just kind of like something to think of as you're posting on social media and whatnot, or even as, I don't know, even just having an account, you think, I don't know, even if your account's private, you might like think it's safe, but like there is someone out there who wants that data and who wants to use it to train their models, or in some way, shape, or form, whether they're using it themselves or selling it off to someone. And then also just the way, well, for the point of an offensive and defensive perspective, I'm gonna use the web scraper example because I'm a psychopath who loves to make web scrapers. From an offensive perspective, I notice more and more web scraping tools are incorporating AI in there, just to help better classify and identify elements on the page, because that's where the data is. And then on a defensive perspective, I noticed that as far as tools that are there to detect anomalies, like your CM systems, using AI, or a lot of those are starting to incorporate AI as well, just to help better classify and identify both illegitimate and legitimate activity on the network. So you're going to kind of see it both help and hurt us as we go.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Daniel B., would you like to pose your question, please? Okay, and I'm going to keep it moving. Okay, I move over to Peggy. Peggy, you had a question to ask. Would you ask your question, please?
I guess my question would be is how do you stand out to companies for internships? Because I know that's very competitive. So I guess how would you stand out?
That's a good question, and also it's honestly going to be applicable as you're applying for your jobs once you're past the internships and whatnot. I'm gonna just say apply, apply, apply. Spam your applications out there as soon as possible. I'm not going to say cybersecurity is not necessarily saturated, but there are quite a few people out there trying to apply and get the same internships as you. So the more positive things you have that can reflect your ability to complete a project or your technical skills on your resume, the more that's going to help you stand out. Because like how you kind of want to think about it, even generally when you're applying for jobs, like first your resume is going to go through an HR person who, they don't have the technical expertise for the job you're doing. They're looking for things like certifications, keywords that match the job description and whatnot. So I'd say definitely having extra projects, a link to your GitHub repo, or any other extracurricular activities helps you stand out and makes it look like you just are someone who's really into technology and loves learning and taking on new technologies.
Thank you. Dan's mic is broke, but his question is this. He says, can you delve more into how you got into those first jobs in the field?
Okay. So I will say for me, because I went to SUNY Canton and joined the research lab, that was a huge help for me because that did help me get my first job as a full stack engineer. They worked alongside me, saw that I could competently code, and then was able to build connections through there. And obviously, I said they get funding from the NSF, so I had lots of good opportunities there as well for networking. So I'd say you just generally want to, I'm sorry if you guys see me looking to the side, I'm also getting pinged a bit for work. But did I answer your question in its entirety there?
I think you did answer his question. His mic is broke. I'm going to jump over to Richard K. He had a question, or I believe a couple. So Richard K., over to you, please.
Yeah, so obviously, what are like some software that you guys use or programs you use, like what's common in the industry?
Okay. No, that's a good question. Okay, as far as programming goes, I know I keep saying this, Python. You want to know Python. The average
Yeah.
cybersecurity professional out there applying for jobs is probably going to have Python on their resume. So you want to make sure you're at least like meeting that bar. I use various static analysis tools, so Veracode, mobile security framework for mobile apps.
You ever heard of
SonarQube.
Wireshark?
Yes, yeah, no, definitely learn Wireshark. That is
Because I use that for a cybersecurity boot camp where we're like analyzing data packets.
Yep. No, definitely a good tool there. Had to learn that in undergrad, and I do use it in work as well.
Okay.
dynamic analysis tools like Invicti, continuous dynamic. And also, you want to be familiar with Unix-based operating systems because you're going to find a lot of times
Oh,
you'll
Linux,
have servers that are there.
like
Yeah,
Linux,
so
Linux-based?
yep. So like, well, for pen testing, I'm a fan of like Kali Linux or the
Oh, I
ParrotOS.
know Kelly, so.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely good skill to have, and I'd say pretty standard in the industry.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Christina W. to ask her question in regards to
Oh, no, wait,
AI.
sorry. Also wanted
Sorry.
to add to that question. Also, tools like OWASP SAP and Burp Suite. But continue there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Christine W., do you want to ask your question in regards to AI? Okay. Peter G., do you want to pose your question, please? Peter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much. Actually, I'm so glad to be to be on this meeting with you. And then thanks so much for all your answers. I had a question actually. You mentioned like you used to, you manage software development systems. Like, what are those tools that you use to manage those systems? And have you ever heard of Jenkins, Terraform, Ansible? And
Yeah.
if you heard of them, like, do you use them in cybersecurity field? Thank you.
Oh, that's a good question. And I see you're also a fellow M&T person.
Yeah, I'm
But feel free
MNT.
to shoot me a message on there anytime you want to chat, if you want to talk more, nerd out about cyber more. But yeah, we use Terraform and Ansible.
Thank
We actually like because on cyber we will have to like host our own applications and set up our own servers. So it's kind of like the DevOps work that you think will not be there that ends up, I guess, going to me on the team. But yeah,
Awesome.
we use Jenkins as well, GitLab, all that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
A question that is, can you talk about the role of AI and machine learning in cybersecurity? And then part two of that question is, what are some emerging trends in cybersecurity that students should be aware of?
And are those Christine's questions?
Yes.
I think I did touch on the AI one and machine learning one, but let me pause. Do you guys want me to talk about that a bit more, or do you feel content with that? Okay, I'll take that as content with that, but feel free to say something in the chat if you want me to circle back. Okay, thank you, Christine. Okay, and I'm glad you asked this question about emerging trends, and let me glance over at my notes because I thought this would be a really important one. I'm going to say three things. The cloud, computers are everywhere, and AI. So as far as the state of the industry now and in how it's going to be in the future, you want to focus on those three things and let me elaborate. So the cloud, it's pretty much everywhere. I've spent nearly my entire career developing in the cloud. And I'm going to go on my nerd spiel for a bit. From an economic standpoint, it's really appealing to companies because of its on-demand nature and it gives the illusion of infinite resources. You don't know how familiar everyone in the call is with the cloud, but generally what you have is physical machines at a data center, and they're basically spinning up these virtual machines that the client or customer, aka us, ends up using for our applications. And you're going to find most cloud service providers follow a shared responsibility model. And what that means basically is that even though they're responsible for part of the infrastructure, we are still responsible for securing the application. But the caveat with that is we now have to depend on the cloud service provider to secure the actual physical machines that are being used to spin up our environments. And that's completely out of our control. So it's going to raise concerns like hypervisor vulnerabilities, potential outages on their end, and just generally keeping our data secure while our apps being hosted in a multi-tenant environment. Like for example, you could have M&T and KeyBank, two separate companies. Their applications could be hosted from the same physical machine. So like work needs to go in to make sure, you can't bounce from virtual machine to virtual machine to make sure the other tenants' environments aren't impacted. It's also a huge concern with security misconfigurations and insecure defaults. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and because a cloud security engineer at M&T once told me this, and I like the way he phrased it. Deploying an app to the cloud and deploying an app to the cloud securely are not inherently the same thing. You could bare bones throw an EC2 instance out there. Sorry, I'm bringing up AWS because I'm an AWS girly, and throw your app out in a day, but that doesn't mean it's secure. You're still going to have to go through all the extra steps of, making sure traffic is only flowing through 443 and not 80, so making sure it's encrypted. And gotta look out for insecure defaults because they will get you. And then also, I personally am noticing there's a trend towards SaaS technologies. I've talked about Salesforce a bit, and to elaborate, Salesforce, what gave me the change of heart with Salesforce is I noticed it's one of the most prominent CRMs on the market, and also a large number of banks use nCino, which is hosted on Salesforce. So you can kind of see why that would make its security pretty important, at least for my case. And then, because nCino is essentially just a package for Salesforce, is the best way, I guess, to describe it. But then you'll see companies who are using Salesforce, they find they can save cost by employing administrators rather than developers to write custom code. And also just kind of, Salesforce is rapidly expanding, SaaS companies in general. As they're rapidly expanding and introducing new features, it's really easy for things to just kind of get lost in all the chaos and go unnoticed. And once again, insecure defaults, they could introduce a new feature that's insecure by default, and then surprise, surprise, Anishka ends up finding it and fixing it. And then just generally speaking, with the push towards SaaS security and SaaS security relative to IaaS and PaaS is very difficult because of the heterogeneous nature of it. You're going to find like for SaaS security solutions, it's very difficult to find like a one size fits all fix for it because they're also vastly different. Whereas sometimes with like on the IaaS side of things, like you'll notice there may be more similarities between, EC2 and then Azure's equivalent of it. And then when I say computers are everywhere, I'm sure you guys know what that means. But, aside from your typical desktops, laptops, tablets, get that out of your head. If it's just those, you now need to be concerned about your smartphones, your smart cars, Internet of Things, etc. Like in one of my classes I'm in now, the last unit is vehicle hacking, which I'm excited for. But I guess be careful if you see me on the road. And then I already talked about on the AI point. But I hope I answered your question there.
Okay. Here's another question for you. How do you secure metadata? And it follows with, I know a lot of data that others try to steal is this type of data.
Oh, that's a good question, and it's honestly very relevant to the cloud talk I was just rambling on about. So it's a really interesting one because these configuration settings, you'll kind of find in some cases when your code's being deployed from environment to environment, how the metadata actually gets saved or how these configuration settings actually get saved is in XML files. So it's like the metadata for the application. So it's kind of like you can use a combination of code scanners, but your code scanner might not necessarily know what to look for in the metadata if it's not something that's very like logical or straightforward, like you would see in an application. So from there, you kind of have to employ other tools like an SSPM or a CSSPM. So it's SaaS security posture management and cloud security posture management.
Excellent.
But in short, a plethora of tools. Sorry.
Okay, you're giving me a headache with all these terms, but I'm hanging in there.
Need a glossary when I'm talking.
Suleiman, would you like to ask your question to Anishka?
Yeah. So my question was, would you say you made the right choice going into cybersecurity, or do you ever wish that you specialized in a different field? Like, is cybersecurity too stressful at sometimes, or is there a better field that you wish you pursued?
Well, I'm a nerd, so I love the field, and it can be very stressful. We got like threat intel articles coming in, and I got teams pinging me asking me if I can run pen tests for them. So it can be a bit stressful, because I don't know. You have, I guess, just kind of take a step back and think technology. All the various types of technology we have, they all need to be secured. So it's just kind of a lot to digest when you, I guess, take a step back and look at it. But I'm very content with like where I've landed in it. I mentioned I'm very interested in like that sweet spot between software engineering and cybersecurity. So I'm very content with that. I like reverse engineering malware. finding and fixing vulnerabilities, all that good stuff.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In regard to you, was networking with people, did that help you and lead you into anything like mentoring with other individuals, professionals to help you in the current state that you're in today?
Yes, it absolutely did. And it's bringing me to another point I want to make. I guess the importance of soft skills. I know, I guess in the beginning, you're kind of going to be working on, ramping up your technical skills and, until you get to a point where you feel really technically sound and confident, in your interviews, but you don't want to forget the soft skills. Because one, it's important when it comes to networking. I've had many times where just because I'm friendly and will be nice to the teams I'm working with, they're more likely to help me. And then, through word of mouth, I'm able to get in contact with other people. And I even mentioned with my first job where I was in the research lab, I was able to get my first job as a full stack engineer after that, and was able to network through the National Science Foundation, Department of Defense, lots of good stuff. And it can be challenging because I tend to be, I'd say, a more introverted person, so it was definitely something I had to work to be able to do. But you will develop the confidence with time. But yeah, you need to be able to speak well, articulate your points clearly, and just generally, I guess, want to be someone people feel comfortable working with.
Thank you. One other thing comes to mind too when you talk about soft skills. Do you have to do any presentations to individuals or groups in regards to what you're working on or potentially what you're suggesting to people?
Yeah, actually, I was just presenting something before this call. As we're standing up a new software in the system, we have to, well, present it and give a demonstration, to all the stakeholders, to all the teams that are using the technology. And even as a full stack engineer, I had to be able to talk to business stakeholders and then also, talk to potential customers.
Thank you. And for the group, the reason I asked those pointed questions was to kind of prove to you guys that, networking helps you in leading into mentoring, which hopefully could lead you into a job. And also your communication skills, your presentation skills, you will have to do those things in the professional job. Because if you're a developer or a cybersecurity person and you are the subject expert on a topic, at some point in time, you will have to present to, it could be 2 people, it could be 200 people in regards to what you are promoting or proposing or suggesting. So those soft skills are really key additional professional skills you need to beef up on, and also being able to work within a team. As I mentioned earlier, Aneska is part of a bigger team of 15. The things that I'm sure she does is not just within a silo of just her. It's her plus 2 people or 10 people. And that group comes back with the suggestions to the corporation to protect us from criminals or others that are trying to come in and steal our data or steal our money or funds. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely well said there. And then just in general, you're going to need to be able to coordinate with other teams. Like you're not going to just be confined to your own team. So the ability to speak and just collaborate with others is really, really important. And something I really liked about M&T, and a big part of why I made the switch from my old company to this one, is just it was a larger company, had more security professionals. So as a result, I was able to get mentorship from, senior engineers. And I mentioned, just kind of being able to talk. I found that has really helped me here. So I find that the senior engineers, the upper management, they're pleasantly surprised when they see me reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm Anishka, I'm interested in this, and I'd love to learn more about what your team does. Can I shadow?" Like they love to see you take the initiative and just, take the extra step that you don't typically see other people doing to kind of, I guess get your foot out there, get your face out there.
One other point to ask you. Let's say now that you've kind of graduated from college, has your learning stopped, or are you forced, or do you have to continue to learn and upskill yourself?
Oh, I'm gonna say I'm slightly biased here just because like I'm still in my second last semester of grad school, so I'm still learning, although part-time. I want to say I noticed while I'm in school, it gives me a huge edge at work because it's kind of forcing me to stay up to date with the latest technologies because I've had, I guess, the pleasure of having great professors who work to update their curriculum to, I guess, reflect what's current in the industry. And it's something I have on the back of my mind as well, just because I'll be graduating next semester. I just want to make sure I'm still able to stay sharp and don't get rusty now that I'm not there actively learning. And I know I did get a question, I think, from Christine on ways to do that, but I'm subscribed to a lot of newsletters from various cybersecurity companies. I follow like reputable companies on GitHub, like OWASP. I will also subscribe to their YouTube channels and listen to podcasts and whatnot. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're keeping the iron sharp after you graduate.
Okay, thank you. I know there's been, for many of you that have posed questions in the chat and also posed questions prior to this meeting, I just want to give some of those that haven't spoken up or asked anything an opportunity if they would like to ask other questions. I know there was Jennifer, I saw that name out there. John, if you'd like to pose a question, you're welcome to do so. Anyone? If not, I do have a question in the chat.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Charles.
What types of projects do you recommend, like for your portfolio, to stand out the most to companies?
Okay, that's a good question. Like for me, in my GitHub repo, I have things like web scrapers, keyloggers, a lot of stuff more specific to malware. Well, in addition to a couple applications, 'cause I do like, web application and mobile application development, as well as a little bit of game development on this side. But yeah, things like that pertaining to, I guess security tools you can think of you could make, or even reverse engineering malware. Those are good things to have in there.
Okay.
And I will say, even though I have those other applications that aren't necessarily always relevant, because like I was a full stack engineer, you'll have like my repo that'll have, I don't know, it'll have like the front end and the back end code, so it clearly demonstrates proficiency with JavaScript, Python, and SQL. So it still does help me, even if it's not relevant to the specific job, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I do want to say with projects, like have fun with it. I think in general, you guys will find you'll like your lives a lot more if you have fun with it when you're doing it. Like in my spare time, like lately my bread and butter has been malware development and I guess also making keyloggers and whatnot.
I've been working a little bit in like Hack the Box,
Nice.
trying
Yeah, I
that as
did have
well
some
too.
questions
But I
on that as
also
well.
I have like an old PC that I've been considering putting Linux on and everything, but I'm a little kind of hesitant about that still, just because I'm so new to it, and I know that you can like really mess up if you don't know what you're doing. But it is
Yeah.
definitely one of the things that like it's on the list that I want to try, like
Yeah, no,
do a
definitely
home
good
lab or
stuff.
something.
I can tell you, I think companies or interviewers when you're applying, they're gonna like to see things like that. And like they'll be able to it'll come through that you're passionate about what you're doing, and they'll like that you're kind of taking that extra step above just doing work or your coursework.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
A question posed, Nesca, is how many times would you say that you've actively had to defend a cyber attack? And also, if so, what are common ways to defend against an attack? And that's if you can speak about that. And I understand from a security standpoint, you may or may not be able to.
Okay. I think I guess how to say it without saying too much. Well, okay. So from my perspective, I've had to actively defend against attacks, but I'm not on the first line of defense. Like I'm not over in the CSOC. Um, so like in the CSOC, or the SOC, however you want to call it, the Security Operations Center, your analysts are typically going to be the ones that, first find an intrusion in the network. They're the ones that are going to, see that anomaly and then, reach out to that team. I had an interesting case where it was actually an older vulnerability that had existed in the system for years. that was kind of a pain because I found myself going in various environments and running various queries to kind of track down where that setting was, turn it off, and then also like track down all the affected files that were, created while that setting was on. Um, and I know I wouldn't say I was necessarily stressed out, but I know it stressed my managers out a bit.
Okay, thank you. New question is, what helped you and kept you more disciplined while building strong connections with your mentors during your career? And what is your advice to mentees today who are pursuing their careers in life?
Okay, that's a good question. I'd say something that's really helped me is just kind of having that goal in the back of your head that you're striving for. Even when I was an undergrad, I always knew I wanted to, get into cybersecurity engineering. I had my whole plan to start as a software engineer, full stack engineer, then segue into security to get a good coding background. But I think always having that goal of becoming a security engineer in the back of my head helped motivate me, just help kind of bring me back down to earth if I ever found I was, you know, spiraling or feeling burned out or anything. Um, and then I'd say just generally, like, and why I say that having something you're working towards is just having something you're passionate about is really going to kind of really help you out in the industry and keep you going. I find I have some coworkers who are they're not so passionate about it, so I find that those people are more tend to be a bit more burnt out or like unhappy in their day-to-day lives. Um, but yeah, I hope I answered your question with that.
Yep. And
Oh, and then sorry, also one point on there because want to make sure I said this on the call. Someone who mentors me in the company gave me good advice. It was kind of, even though you have that goal you're working in mind, I guess be open, I guess, to career movements you didn't necessarily expect. Like I didn't expect to learn Salesforce in my career. I didn't necessarily expect to land on the WIM PAM team, but I'm really glad I did. And I'd say it made me more familiar with technologies that are widely used in the industry, and it certainly helped me out a lot. So I guess even though I knew I was always still working towards like getting here, just being open to new technologies or opportunities or projects that might come your way.
excellent, excellent. Do you have a favorite podcast? Cyber podcast to
I
be
do.
specific?
I'm a fan of Lock and Code by Malwarebytes. It's on Spotify. If anyone's interested.
Great, great. The questions I think that are posed by everybody today is great. I do want to thank everybody for those. And also, I don't know, Ineska, is there anything else you'd like to, I don't know, just add as your suggestions to future cybersecurity experts that are here?
I think I just want to say, well, I really appreciate you all coming out and hearing me talk and listening to my nerdy spiels. I know I ramble a lot. I guess want to thank you guys, and I also want to say don't get discouraged as you're entering the industry and you're applying for jobs. Like you're gonna find you could send out 50 applications, and you're lucky if you hear back from like 5, 10 of those. Just I guess don't get discouraged. Just kind of keep your goals in the back of your head, and know that even if one opportunity doesn't work out, you can learn from it, and then there will always be another opportunity that'll either come your way or you can seek out and actively grab.
Okay. Two more items. One, a question, and then the second one will be I'm going to go over to one of my colleagues to give a shout out about something. The question is, what are the most ideal jobs to apply for once you finished school and gotten a few of the certifications you mentioned?
That's a good question. Definitely, you want to go towards your SOC analyst, and you don't necessarily need to do that, but a lot of cybersecurity professionals do start off as security operations analyst. Um, you'll tend like those are the jobs that are more open to taking entry level people, and also even if it's a job that's not necessarily cybersecurity but it's adjacent to it, it could be a help desk analyst or like network analyst type of roles. Those are all good, and I'm unbiased. Full stack engineering or any kind of development because those are roles where you're going to likely be working adjacent to a cybersecurity department, and it gives you the opportunity to, not work there and potentially, make your move over there like I did.
Excellent, excellent. But I think also, as what you said too, individuals should know that whatever job you start out with in technology, you're probably not going to end up at that same job. Most individuals, the average person is going to switch jobs about 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, definitely. And I can tell you guys a story if it makes any of you guys feel better. I don't even know how I was even offered this interview because I hadn't even finished. I hadn't even got my bachelor's yet. I hadn't even finished undergrad, but it was an interview for a cybersecurity engineering job. I was like, oh boy, my dream job, and obviously didn't get it. I was feeling pretty discouraged, and I was like, I probably shouldn't have had that job anyway. I don't kind of quite feel ready to be there, and I feel like even though I didn't get the job, I learned a lot from the interview. I was able to kind of see what types of questions I'd typically be asked, and it's good to get practice interviewing. I guess even if it's a job that you aren't passionate about, you can still, I guess, always use the interviewing experience. I mentioned I'm more introverted, so practicing interviewing has certainly helped me a lot because unfortunately you're going to get to an interview and it's kind of like you have to sell yourself. I don't like phrasing it like that, but you're going to have to talk to your strengths and weaknesses and articulate that very clearly because it's going to be someone you don't personally know. So you kind of have to show them, I guess, what you got and that you're a star.
Well, thank you. I'm going to jump over real quick to one of my colleagues on the call, John O'Hare. So, John, over to you for a shout out about something you want to tell the team about.
Thanks. Thank you, Howard. I really appreciate being on here today. And actually, your thoughts and your experience is really helpful to these students. I want to introduce myself as the internship coordinator, kind of for all the technologies. I've worked, my specialty is civil engineering and construction. I've met with Suleiman already, and I'm available to speak with any of your students who are looking for a little help trying to find an internship program. Like she had mentioned, you have to send that out to a lot of people. So in the chat, I have something over here called Final Project. That is something we're doing tomorrow on campus at the North Campus from 10 to 2. It is a program called Building Her Future. That's what it is. It's for men and women, but we're really focusing on women in technology because so many times women get the wrong start and they're told not to jump into technology programs. Technology is open to men and always has been. But we have up to 30 companies being on campus tomorrow. So you don't have to just send your resume out. You can actually look at someone and send it to it. M&T Bank will be there. Also Moog, National Grid, National Fuel, PCB, PC Electronics, a lot of big manufacturing companies that certainly are going to need IT support. So just wanted to throw that out to you. If anybody has the ability to come to the North Campus tomorrow for this, we'll have lunch during the lunchtime, free lunch for you. And just trying to support the other technology programs. Thanks, Darren.
Excellent. Thank you, John, for the shout out about the program and also about the fact that in technology, it is open to everybody. It is definitely an open port for more women in the field. And one of the reasons why I asked my friend Aneska to come to this call, because she is a minority in the field. She is a standout in the field. And I hope the things that she shared with you all this afternoon are very valuable. I hope you all asked her some of the questions you probably wanted to ask. You probably have a ton more. But if those of you on the call do have more questions, route them to myself or Linda. We'll get them to Aneska. She's an open door person, a sweetheart of an individual to work with. I've had the opportunity and a pleasure to work with her. I am very sad that she was stolen from us. And I joke with her about that, but she was stolen. That's a beautiful, perfect opportunity for her to grow within the organization. It also shows the value that she brings to the company, as a professional and as a technologist, excuse me. And it also shows that other individuals within the company do have eyes on you, even when you think they don't. Okay. So she was stolen, but she was stolen for an upgrade to a different team and group, but she's still part of my family, my group. And as a teaser, we've left the lights on for you. So if you ever want to come back, come on home. We're here for you. And also for those of you that are on the call, I hope you heard Mr. O'Hare in regards to his opportunity to be able to help you for internships. Many of you will say you have a hard time trying to find them. If you don't take his offer as an opportunity, that is something that you're missing. Okay, I'm trying to help you guys too by giving you suggestions and directions. I've got to leave because somebody else has got the room that I'm in, but I want to thank you all for participating on the call this afternoon. Okay, so I have to leave. Linda, I'll turn it over to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much for being a part of our Speak IT series on today. Thank you, Aniska, for joining us. It was amazing. You are very knowledgeable in everything that you have said on today, and hopefully you guys have gotten something out of it. I see all of the kudos in the chat. Again, John, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing, your portion of what you're doing for engineering and technologies. Hopefully I will see you guys next month for our next recruiting, what's to know about recruiting. So I will see you guys until then. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
You can't be demanding. You can't put yourself first. So, put yourself first. You can't be confident. So be confident. You can't challenge. So challenge. You can't dominate. So dominate. You can't flex. So flex. You can't fill a stadium. So fill that stadium. You can't be emotional, so be emotional. You can't take credit. You can't speak up. You can't be so ambitious. You can't break records. You can't have any fun. You can't make demands. You can't keep score. You can't stand out. Whatever you do, you can't win. So win.